Hello and welcome to Chapter 4, Module 2 of the Blockchain Education Network open source course. Today we're going to be talking about the Proof of Work consensus. The module author is Aleksej Jocic. His Slack username is @Aleksej. He is a computer science student at the University of Belgrade. Today what we're going to learn. We're going to learn what is the Proof of Work and how does it work. What are the security implications of Proof of Work consensus, and what effect does it have on the environment? So what is Proof of Work? In the Bitcoin network, Proof of Work is a consensus protocol that makes generating new blocks difficult. It is used to determine which block of transactions is going to be next in chain, and therefore verify that transactions are being executed in the correct order. There are many ways to implement Proof of Work systems. How does it work? Every block contains a hash of the block before it. This hash is a number that is easy to calculate and is unique to each block. In order for a block to be accepted by the network, its hash, the whole block's hash, has to be smaller than a certain number called a target. This number changes every 2016 blocks, so about every 2 weeks, and it corresponds to how quickly the network finds a new block. As the network becomes faster at finding new blocks, the target value lowers for the block to be valid. In order to achieve a hash value lower than that number, data is appended to the block. This data is referred to as a nonce. Because of difficulty of finding such data, it is costly and time-consuming to search for it and add a block to the chain. The chain with the lowest target and biggest difficulty wins and is accepted as the correct one. This has a large effect on the economy and security of the entire Bitcoin network. Here we can see an illustration of a chain containing a few blocks. We have the different block headers, the previous hash value that gets transmitted from block to block, and those transactions that are happening here. Along with those, you have the nonce, the winning nonce for that block to have a hash value under the target difficulty. Voting with your CPU. Because luck plays an important factor in finding the right nonce, it is unlikely for a single user to be the first to find the solution. Instead, miners add blocks in a probabilistic way, depending on how fast they can calculate a hash of the block for each nonce. So essentially, the larger your hashing power, the more chance you have of finding the right nonce. This would ensure for everybody with a processor to have a vote on which block comes next in the chain. Next, we're going to be talking about the security implications and how does Proof of Work keep the network secure. In Bitcoin, Proof of Work ensures that blocks are not generated too quickly or without any effort. Remember, there is a block discovery about every 10 minutes. Because it takes time for the solution to be found for every block, 2 different blocks rarely, if ever, get sent to the network at similar times. This leaves time for the entire network to synchronize with the most current blockchain. Miners tend to have time to get a new block and start working on the next one right away. If this was not the case, miners would proportionally waste time over the older chains and have higher chance of making another block to compete for the longest, most difficult to generate chain. This would make more uncertainty of the correct order of the blocks and transactions. This uncertainty then could be abused to spend some funds multiple times, something called a double spend. So a little recap, it takes time and energy to find each block in order to vote for the next block. And it makes it costly to try to exclude a certain block from the chain by trying to generate longer chain without it. This is what would be called an attack on the network. So let's talk about the environmental implication of Proof of Work. Proof of Work system requires a lot of energy in order to find each block. Since Bitcoin network is growing, more energy is being consumed for the purpose of mining. Even with the current efforts to switch to green energy, a lot of electricity is still generated from non-renewable resources, which negatively affects the environment. Proof of Work's big energy needs calls for alternative methods of consensus to be researched. One such example would be the proof-of-stake algorithm that could be implemented in the Ethereum blockchain. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? If you do, please ping at Aleksej in Slack.